Good. October Red. I'm here with Ben Davison. I don't know why, but I always write Ben Davidson. So first of all, I'd like to apologise for my typo the last time we spoke. Ben, welcome back.
Thank you, and that's not a problem. No worries.
First of all, I know I can't pan down with the camera, but do you want to explain to our viewers your footwear? I just heard some clanking across the floor. Is that Gucci?
Gucci mink, innit? No, I'm joking. No, they're slippers. They're comfy. Today's a relaxed day. So yeah, comfortable footwear.
Comfortable footwear for possibly not a comfortable fight. We're going to get into it. A domestic fight, I always get a bit of goosebumps when it comes to like the domestic fights. Getting this fight made, and something that Lee said in the face-off that they had, is that you guys have been looking at hours and hours of footage to look at Warrington's strengths, to break that down, just to see common mistakes that he makes. Talk to us about that, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, we do that for every fight, being honest, that our lads go into. Obviously, the bigger the fights, the more in-depth we'll go into, and the better the fighter, etc. And it's not always mistakes, to be honest with you. It's just patterns and tendencies that fighters have got. Sometimes we'll use a fighter's attribute, but they use that attribute over and over, so we'll look to capitalise on it. There's been lots of talk about Josh being past it and all that. I just think it's absolute nonsense. I don't believe that one bit. I think, if anything, he's got the bit between his teeth. I think, the fact that he's on the other side of the poster and things like that, that's putting the bit between his teeth. So I expect a better than ever Josh Warrington. Unfortunately, I wish he was past it, but I don't believe it.
What I liked about your fighter, Lee, is he was very, very complimentary. Like I said, I watched the face-off. Lee was very, very complimentary of Josh, and like yourself, saying, no, he's not written off. I know I'm in for a good fight. I know he's got some attributes, but I believe that I'm the better boxer. Talk to us about that. We say that styles make fights, but in your opinion, what makes Lee the better boxer than Josh?
I think the better boxer is probably the wrong word as well. I just think that Lee's probably a little bit more versatile. I think the fact, depending on how Josh approaches the fight, I think Lee's power could have a huge factor in the fight. I know that they're both the type of guys that the crowd and the atmosphere, they rise to the occasion and rise to the atmosphere. But I think, if that pumps Josh up too much, and he's going to want to get his hands on Lee, he's going to have this let me stick it on him type mentality, and it'll be no secrets. They'll be aware of it, but Lee will look to bring him onto a shot. And I think Lee punches hard enough where if you do run onto it, especially consistently, it's potentially fight-ending moments. So, obviously there'll be some adjustments along the way. And there's areas, just being completely honest, there's areas that Josh will get the better of Lee. So each fighter's got to try and dictate and make the fight happen on their terms and in areas of the ring that they want it to happen. And that comes with controlling the moments in between the action.
And that's a really good point that you've put on there, because it's so important that the key fighter, gains control really early on. We can go back to Saturday just gone. We saw Jordan Thompson against Jai Opetaia. The kind of general consensus was Jordan really needs to go in there fast. He really needs to go in there and make sure he sticks it on him in those first 4 rounds. Jai Opetaia subliminally, boxing IQ, listened to that and went straight and stuck. It sat on his chest from the get-go. The controlling of the fight from the beginning.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, sometimes fighters have got a certain level of IQ where they can go out, they can take a look, get a read before going to work. Other fighters look to come out and set a tempo. Josh, I imagine, will probably come out and look to start fast. So there is a potential for Lee to create a big opportunity, a big moment for Lee early on if Josh decides to come out and try and let his hands go right away. So sometimes you have to take a look at it. He might come out and be a little bit wary and take his time before looking to get to work. So, Josh is a versatile fighter himself. So there's lots of outcomes and lots of scenarios that you have to prepare for.
Being a grateful coach, then you've got a versatile fighter, a fighter that can also rely on his own IQ. It's not like that for all boxers, and I'm sure you would have experienced that. How do you then try and control a fighter or get into the fighter's head to assist them to get through those rounds when they're not solely relying on their own IQ?
Yeah, being honest, Lee's probably puts, he'll listen to a T. And sometimes an adjustment will happen in the moment and the fighter's got to make that adjustment themselves. Sometimes, especially when there's a big atmosphere, you don't get the opportunity to call out the instructions. They can't really hear you. So different fighters along the way. Other fighters have got the ability to recognise things and a lot quicker. But Lee's experience is key as well, because he's been in those moments. He knows how to, if Lee does have a moment, or if Lee does have a bad moment, or Josh has a good spell, he's got the experience to, okay, compose myself, I can come back, or, for example, we might have worked too hard, I can capitalise on that, etc., etc. So,
what I do like about Lee is there's a bit of a story behind him, respect to all fighters, but he's kind of like the Cinderella of the boxing division. And how does that feel to be like part of that, to see that rise, to see him, I don't know if one for a better word, but boxing is the Prince Charming, is it, that's going to whisk him off his feet and give him this better life? Yeah,
for sure. And I think that I'm sure there's lots of fighters out there that work really hard and all the rest of it are really good guys. With Lee, he is, he's such a hard worker. He's such a good guy. He's been so consistent, worked hard, been disciplined, been dedicated, lived the life. He really has worked for everything that he gets, and God willing, more successes come his way.
I'm going to touch on other members in your camp before I let you go. Quickly, Fabio Wardley, obviously he's part of the team. He's got a fight coming up with David Adelaide. How does he win that fight with such a heavy puncher like Adelaide? I'm not saying that Fabio can't punch, because Fabio's a puncher as well. We've seen what Adelaide can do. Those two styles, how does Fabio win that fight?
I'm not going to go into details, but Fabio knows what he needs to do. And yeah, Fabio knows what he needs to do. I'm not going to go into it too much, because obviously the fight is coming up.
It's impending, yeah.
But I think, again, taking the details out of it, because I don't want to touch on that, just looking at the experience and the people that Fabio's been in there with goes a long way, as opposed to David. I don't think there's anyone on his record that, to be honest with you, I don't think he's ever been touched like Fabio's going to touch him. And I think that could be a huge factor there. I think that he'll have a bit of a shock when Fabio does land. It's
a really exciting fight that the British public are looking forward to. The presser at Fury and Ngannou did help raise the stock, however you want to look at it. It was good for the fight fans. It's got everybody interested. It's just a shame that obviously the British isn't on the line. Could we have that fight back in the UK for the British? Yeah, I don't know. Look, Fabio's got his coach, Rob. He's got his management team. Them guys take care of that. My only thing is I help him out, guiding him, boxing, working with Rob. To what I think he needs to be doing or needs to be working on. So all that side of things. But of course, if it's a great fight over there, I don't see why they couldn't run it back. Touching back onto Jamie Takivi, we saw his fight. I will say that he didn't really look his usual self, but then we saw somebody that came out and literally smothered Jamie's work, didn't give him any room to move. Everything that Jamie was doing, he was nullifying it, whether he was tying him up or he was really sticking it on his chest. That fight, because obviously it ended in a horrendous cut, which has put Jamie back a few months now, when really he was just starting to build. Yeah, again, Jamie trains in the gym. I'm not Jamie's trainer, and he's got his management team. I didn't like the fight and the opponents that was being offered to him. I had mentioned these things to Jamie, and Jamie will say that to you. I didn't like the direction he was being pointed in. So it was disappointing and frustrating.
There was a situation with the gloves as well, which I'm sure everybody's seen, which, you know, looks. I'm staying out of it because, again, I'm not in control there. But yeah, the situation stinks, to be honest with you. I don't like it. So
Fair enough, and I respect you even answering that. Billy Joe Saunders makes his comeback. Eddie has described him as this kind of like new and improved, more mature Billy Joe Saunders. You've known him for a while. You've worked with him for a minute now. Your thoughts on this alleged new and improved Billy Joe?
yeah, I think he is more mature. I think. Do you know what I find? I find so many boxers, they get to a point in their career and they genuinely do believe that it's about the money. And I think they think, you know, especially when, so for example, their initial goal might be, I want to become a world champion. They'll become a world champion. And I think they hit that achievement and then in their mind, genuinely do believe, you know, I just want to make as much money as I can. It's about the money, it's about the money, it's about the money. A significant thing, I've worked with a lot of top quality boxers, the highest level of sport. When they're going into their biggest nights, I've never come across a fighter that wouldn't say, I'd give my purse up to win this fight. I would fight for free if I was guaranteed to win. Every single time. And I think only sometimes, for example, touching on the Billy Joe situation, I think he's come away from the sport. He's earned plenty of money. And I think he's thinking, what? I want to get back to it. What? Why is that? I thought it was about money. I've got money. I thought it was about world titles. I've got world titles. And I think it sparked something in him to make him realise, actually, I love the sport. I love being in the gym. I love everything around it. And I think it refuels that fire sometimes when you have a little bit of time wait and you've had those achievements. I think people start to realise that actually, you know, there's different reasons why I do what I do.
Getting him back into shape, and when can we expect him back out? And looking at opponents, he's got a nice line of fighters that he can actually go through, get in the ring and have some really good competitive fights. Have we got like a timescale for him?
I think the team's looking at December. I think, yeah, I think he's put it out there that he's not going to be anybody mad for the first one. He's had to drop a lot of weight. I think people are aware of that. And then next year, like you say, there's lots of big options out there for him. So, yeah.
Listen, it's always a pleasure. I wish you and your team all the best on Saturday. I can't wait to see this fight. It's going to be absolutely electric. Ben Davison, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Pleasure.